with you either way. And um, your folks at SBDC can always reach out to Bill and I and our team. So if something comes up later and you're not quite sure where to start or you don't know how to answer that question, you can reach out to us. You can reach out to your leadership at SBDC, and they can reach out to us as well, and we will get you some answers. Now, with any website on Department of Revenue portals or web pages, you're going to want to use Google Chrome or Firefox. Safari and Microsoft Edge are kind of glitchy. They don't work correctly on our websites. So just use Google Chrome and Firefox. If you haven't, you can also get yourself signed up for news and updates. So at AZDOR.gov, our main website, you can actually, right away, there's a button that'll pop up and you can click that and you can sign up for emails or text or both. It's real quick to sign up. It takes like a second, but that will renew, that'll give you renewal reminders. So if you have any questions about when the renewal dates are, that's nice to sign up for that. Now, on the same website, we also have a chat feature. So AZDOR.gov has a little chat icon at the bottom right corner. So if you click that, that'll connect you to an actual person, and they will be available from Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. They will be great for kind of any general knowledge questions, or like if you need information on where to find a form, or you're not able to get kind of an answer about state taxes. That is really helpful. Now, if it's something more specific or confidential information, we will direct you to our call center because they would be able to handle that specific information with you and help you out in that manner. Okay, so you're going to see this little symbol. That's just kind of giving you a little heads up that it might be a good resource to save. If you forget or you don't save a resource or you don't, make a note of it, do not worry. I'm going to make sure that we send out our handout to SBDC. So your folks can maybe make that available to you, or that'll be a resource for you. I'm also going to show you a couple of really handy web pages that if you remember at least those ones, you can find everything else. So don't worry about that. Okay, let's get into the content. And let's talk about some things we're going to see on the screen today. These are some of the acronyms. We like acronyms, unfortunately. There's a lot of them at the Department of Revenue. The big ones are going to be TPT, so Transaction Privilege Tax. You will see the JT1 application, so the Joint Tax Application. That is how you get your Transaction Privilege Tax. We're also going to see the BAU. That's one of the forms that's really handy. So it's the Business Account Update Form. And there's a handful of other ones on there. Some might be familiar, but I will explain those as we go along here. So let's go ahead and talk about TPT, so Transaction Privilege Tax. What is it? So in Arizona, we call it Transaction Privilege Tax. Sometimes we might think of it like a sales tax, but technically what this is a tax on the privilege of engaging in certain taxable businesses in the state. So this is actually a tax on that business activity. And because it's a tax on that business activity, the liability for the tax is actually on the seller or vendor. So that is the person responsible for TPT. Of course, that seller or vendor is likely going to pass that on to the purchaser. Of course, that's kind of the common thing to do. So they may choose to pass that on to the purchaser. This tax is a gross receipts or gross income tax. So it's levied on all the gross proceeds derived from the business. And I'll mention that a couple more times when that's appropriate, so we remember that. But just remember that you're reporting all of your gross income, and then we will talk about deductions that you might be able to take after that. So we'll talk about that later on in the presentation here. So some of the activities that are taxable activities under TPT are on the screen there. So we've got retail, we've got contracting, commercial lease, personal property rentals, and amusement. There are more than that. If you don't see yours listed there, it's probably because it's on the tax rate tables. That's where you can find all of the taxable activities. So on the tax rate tables, you will find all of those taxable activities listed. We'll see that in just a little while as well. So we've kind of started to talk about TPT, and we're getting a bit of a sense of that. Now we also have use tax, so we'll cover that next. Now the difference between transaction privilege tax and use tax is that TPT is the responsibility of the vendor or the seller, but the responsibility of use tax is on the purchaser. So remember, TPT is on the gross proceeds or the gross income derived from that taxable activity. But then use tax, that's separate. So that's imposed upon the purchase of tangible personal property, which is then used, stored, or consumed in Arizona when the sale was not subject to transaction privilege tax. So I like to think of it like this. If TPT wasn't collected, then likely use tax is going to be collected. So if it wasn't subject to transaction privilege tax and that property was used, stored, or consumed in Arizona, then you owe use tax. We'll talk a little bit more about that as well. I do want to give a little side note to that. So if an Arizona purchaser purchases goods from an out-of-state vendor and that vendor did not collect TPT, then you will owe use tax. So if the vendor from out of state did not collect transaction privilege tax, then the Arizona purchaser will owe use tax. So it is really important to review the invoice once that purchase is received. If you look at that invoice and no line indicates that a tax was charged for the order, then you can go ahead and reach out to that vendor and ask, hey, are you registered with the Department of Revenue in Arizona for TPT collection purposes? If the vendor says, yes, we do that, then great. The purchaser, you don't have to worry about remitting anything. But if the vendor is not, and none of the economic or physical nexus rules apply, then the business would remit the use tax for the purchase. I have a couple of examples that'll help with this too, I think. So talking about use tax, there's really a couple of times where this is going to be relevant for you all. So let's talk about that out-of-state vendor first. Let's say I'm a t-shirt business. I print t-shirts and I'm purchasing my bulk t-shirts online and I find a really good price for an out-of-state vendor. Maybe they're in Colorado and they have a really good price. So I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to buy those. Well, probably that attractive low price is because that particular state did not collect or levy TPT at the time of purchase. So then I get those shirts, they're delivered on my doorstep here in Arizona, and then I use those in my business. Well, I now owe use tax on that purchase. That other state did not collect TPT, but now I'm using those in my business and TPT was not collected, so I will owe use tax. So that's one kind of common scenario for use tax. Now I'm going to give you another common scenario. So let's say you use an exemption certificate, and we're going to talk about this in just a little while. Let's say that you use an exemption certificate to purchase goods, and it's the resale certificate. So you're going to purchase goods, tax exempt, because you're going to resell those. But let's say instead of reselling them, you actually use them for your employees or use them in your business or use them in a different way than what you said you were going to do. You don't actually resell them. In that case, you would also owe use tax because those goods, instead of being resold and instead of collecting TPT, you use them, so you will use tax. So an example for this, let's say Bill and I have a barbershop and we cut hair and all that kind of stuff, but we also have a little gift shop in the front. We have a nice little retail section and we have some shelves with some products, and we purchase goods that we're going to sell, and we purchase those tax exempt. We have shampoo and conditioner and things like that. Well, one day I'm shampooing a client's hair and I run out. And so I go to my retail shelf and I pull a bottle off of the shelf. Well, I've now used that product and I've used it instead of reselling it. So because of that, I will owe you tax on that. Now, if you have questions about that, I totally understand, because that stuff can be a little confusing, and we can kind of clarify that again in a little bit. Okay, let's put a pause on that and move on to some resources we can use. So for transaction privilege tax, we have a lot of resources on AZDOR.gov. One of the best pages you can find is this quick reference page. On this quick reference page, there's a link to almost every other major resource here. You're going to have the tax rate tables, the deduction codes, tutorials. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit. But if you cannot find this, I always recommend to people just Google it. Go to Google, type AZDOR, and then whatever you were looking for. It'll come up towards the top. But a super handy little page here. Here's up close of some of those topics that are on there. Okay, so we understand a little bit about TPT and use tax. Let's talk about how do we get licensed. So first you have to decide, do I need a transaction privilege tax license? If you're not quite sure, check the tax rate table. I will show you that in just a little bit here. But on there, you can see a complete list of the taxable activities that require a transaction privilege tax license. Now, once you determine that, you're going to have to fill out a joint tax application to apply for that. We call it joint tax application because it's used by both the Department of Revenue and the Department of Economic Security. And it is used for applying for transaction privilege tax, use tax, and employer withholding and unemployment insurance. So some of that might apply to you and some might not, but it is used for several different things. If you need an unemployment insurance number, that is actually obtained from the Department of Economic Security. So they have resources and a help page for that. If you have questions about withholding tax, we have another workshop, and we can always answer questions about that on the side if you have any more questions on that. Now, if you are doing this application, you will need to make sure that you have your employer identification number, your EIN. If you do not have that, you can get that from irs.gov. And I believe it's pretty quick. I don't think it takes too long to get that. Now, TPT licenses are non-transferable. So this is really important. I want to highlight this. TPT licenses are non-transferable. So if you acquire an existing business, you actually need to obtain a new TPT license to be able to operate the business. So sometimes people might have a TPT license number in the sales agreement, but actually you do need to get a new TPT license. All right, let's go ahead and talk about applying. How can we go about that? And for you all that are online today, you'll see Bill is dropping some links in the chat. Feel free to save those. And if you're in person, I'll show you kind of on the screen some resources and where to find those in just a little bit. Okay, so licensing. You can do this online. Excuse me. You can you can apply online on AZTaxes.gov, or you can submit a paper application. Both are the exact same options. It's the same information required, and it provides the same options for your application. If you can do it online, that's preferable. It's going to be easier for you, and it's going to process much quicker. That application will be completed on AZTaxes.gov. That's the same website that you can file and pay online as well. So I'll talk more about that, but that website is very handy. If you can get started, it's recommended to get on AZTaxes.gov. Now, if you do the paper JT1, you can complete that and you can submit it through the mail, or you can drop it off at a Department of Revenue office. I think probably in most cases you would end up mailing it. It will take a little bit longer to process. It can take up to 14 business days. So if you've submitted an application and you have not received your TPT license yet, ask yourself if it's been 14 business days, because it just might take a little more time. Now, if you haven't gotten any communication and it's been more than that amount of time, please reach out to our call center and we can help you out. Or you can reach out to Bill and I, and we can look into that as well. Okay, so there is an online registration tutorial as well. I'll talk about where to find that kind of stuff, but let's talk about how we can do that briefly. So on AZTaxes, it's pretty quick to get set up. You're going to enroll to file and pay online. So you're going to create an account. You're going to set up your e-signature PIN. And then at that point, you can either do your application for your TPT license, or you can actually link your existing business if you already have a business set up. So you can actually create your online account and then link your existing business. So these tutorials are available on AZDOR.gov. Let me briefly show you where to find those. So I'm gonna go to that page for you all real quick. So this is AZDOR.gov. This page, I'm already on it. This is the taxpayer education page. This is our team's page. There's the tutorials button here. You'll click that. And let's see how fast it is. On my computer, it's a little bit slower, but usually it loads quicker than this. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the presentation, but you're going to want to just look up AZDOR tutorials or AZDOR taxpayer education. Either way, you'll find it. There we go. You've got TPT tutorials right here. If you click that, there's a bunch of tutorials and it'll show all of this process. So I really encourage, check that out if you can. Okay, let's keep on going along here. So once you get yourself licensed, there might be a couple of maintenance things you have to do, maybe some updates. There's the business account update form, or the BAU. This is really handy to make a variety of updates. You can update a lot of different business information. We recommend that you review this annually, and that's because your TPT license will be renewed at the end of each year. So we suggest that you review this before November to ensure that all of your information is up to date. Now, the document is kind of long, but you only have to complete the sections that you wish to update. Some of those things can be updated on aztaxes.gov on our website. For instance, you can actually update your location information. We'll talk more about that. And you can change your mailing address. I'm also going to be talking about the filing frequency. I want you to keep this form in mind. This form is used to update the filing frequency as well. And it's a very easy update. This form, you just complete your identifying information, so your business information, and then you would just update whatever you need to do. Now you can find this form on AZDOR.gov. Then we have another form here. This is the power of attorney form, so Form 285. So a power of attorney can be used to authorize the Department of Revenue to release confidential information to your appointee. So let's say you're working with a CPA or a professional that you need them to have access to talk to the Department of Revenue on your behalf. You will definitely need to be completing the power of attorney form. This is available on AZDOR.gov as well. Now, there are a variety of forms available. The general disclosure or representation authorization form, which is this Form 285, that's going to be the most common. And this one will include the ability to grant additional powers as well, up to and including a power of attorney. Now, unfortunately, you cannot do this online. You do have to actually print the form out. So you're going to print this out And then you can fax it, you can mail it to our mailing address that'll be provided on the form, or we recommend to email it. So you can scan that back into your computer and then attach that and email it to poa@azdor.gov. That's going to be a little bit quicker processing. And if there's any errors, they will email you back and let you know, hey, we're missing this part of the application or this part of the form, if you can just fix that. So I recommend that. And then let's talk about renewals. So I kind of mentioned this. Your TPT license is valid for 1 calendar year. So that's January to December. And that's regardless of when you open it. If I open my TPT license in October, I'm still going to have to renew before January 1st. Now, we also recommend, again, update your information and especially check your location information. If you have any old locations that are no longer open, that you've closed, you want to make sure that you update those. I'll talk more about that in just a little bit. And then if you have to add any new locations, do that as well. But you don't want to pay extra fees that you don't have to pay. So just make those updates. You can do this online. So you can make your renewal on AZTaxes.gov. So that'll be a lot quicker for you, a lot easier as well. But if you do, if you fail to pay your renewal by January 1st, that may result in penalties. So keep that in mind. Try to get that done before then if possible. Okay, so we've gone through getting our TPT license and some things that we can do to update it. Let's talk about some details about this license. So we're going to talk about filing frequency and thresholds for electronic filing and payments. Let's begin with filing frequency. So this is kind of a scary thing when you first look at it, but it's actually not so bad. Now I know if we have recently applied for a TPT license, sometimes this can be a little bit confusing. It's going to ask you for a filing frequency. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't make a lot of sense because we're starting our business, right? And we might not know what our annual TPT liability will be. But even if you don't know, you're going to just do your best estimate. And then we're going to talk about how we can change that afterwards. So the frequencies that we have are annual, quarterly, and monthly. So if you estimate that the liability will be less than $2,000 per year, and this is that transaction privilege tax annual liability. If you estimate that's going to be less than $2,000 per year, you can request to file annually. If you fall between $2,000 and $8,000 per year, you may file quarterly. But if you fall into $8,000 or more per year in TPT liability, you'll be required to file monthly. So again, it's an estimation. So when you choose this on your TPT license application, you might not know what it's going to be, but just do your best estimation. And then once you understand what your liability will be looking like, once you're getting to that point, you can update your filing frequency. That can be done with the business account update form. Now, when you make that update, you're going to choose it on the form. It's very easy. It's a quick little update on the form. But keep in mind that the effective date for the new filing frequency is going to depend on when you submit that update. So let's say if I'm going to change from monthly to annually, like I'm currently having the monthly filing frequency, and then I make this update and I submit it in May, well, that change is not going to take effect until the next January because I'm going to be choosing the annual frequency, and that starts in January. So just keep that in mind, that the change will take effect whenever that cycle you chose begins. And we can talk more if we have questions about that as well. So please definitely take a note if you do, and And we can always, Bill and I and our team, again, we'll provide our email, and also you guys can reach out to SBDC, and we can make sure that we help you out with your specifics. And then we have this electronic filing and paying threshold. So in 2021, so it's been a few years, the Department of Revenue had a threshold here. So if you have an annual liability, which is $500 or more in TPT, you actually are required to file and pay electronically on AZTaxes.gov. So that's just trying to get everyone kind of more on the electronic filing and paying. That's just an initiative. Now, if you do reach that required e-file threshold before the year's end, you need to make sure that you file online for the remainder of the year because you don't want to have any penalties. If you cannot file and pay online, or if you don't have reliable access to a computer or internet to file and pay, we have an application for a waiver. We'll talk about that at the end. So don't worry if I know that was thought out and that was that reason for that. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, we're breezing right along. So we've got our TPT license applied for. We've talked about some updates we can make, talking about some details here. Let's talk about locations. So location-based reporting. So location code is a unique 3-digit number that is assigned by the Department of Revenue, and it identifies the physical location of business activity within a jurisdiction. So on this little map, it's as simple as it looks. This business, if they have 2 locations, the first one is just location 001, and the second is location 002. Now, this code enables the Department of Revenue to collect taxes that are generated in that region and then disperse that revenue back to that specified city or district. So it's basically just that way of keeping track of the locations. Now, this code is only used to report activity at the city or town level. And if you need more information on this, we have a really good tutorial that does a really good job of explaining kind of how location-based reporting works, and it has some nice visuals as well. Let's look at how the TPT license itself looks. So here's that transaction privilege tax license. I'm sure a lot of us have seen this. Now there's some good information on here. On the left-hand side, you've got the mailing address, or rather, this is the address that you provided as a mailing address. That'll be on the license. Right below it, you have the location code. So here we see code 001. So this TPT license, there's only one location, but there can be several, right? There can be more than that. So there's that. On the right-hand side, you find the license number, and then the start date, issue date, and expire dates would be there as well. Remember, these TPT licenses are only valid for 1 calendar year, and they do need to be renewed no later than January 1st of the next year. So again, keep in mind that there's that tutorial online, super handy. Now, if you do have to make a change, if you have to add a location or remove an old location, you're going to use that business account update form. You can also make those changes online on AZTaxes.gov. So that's going to save you some time, and that's going to be a lot easier if you can do that.
Matt, may I ask a question? This is
Absolutely.
Mary.
Yeah, absolutely, Mary.
For the area here in San Luis, Arizona, there is no in-person delivery for mail. Everything is via PO box. When they're filling out the application, what do you recommend them to do for this area?
That's a good question. I think that I can let me make sure to get a good clear answer on that.
Yeah, we can answer at the end. I just wanted to just something that I know for this area. There's no delivery to the residential area so they can receive the license certificate. So I was just wondering how you guys manage it when it's areas like us. but you can answer at the end if you want.
No, that's a great question. Let me get more information for you all on that. I believe PO Box should work fine, is my understanding. I know that I think sometimes when you go online and you enter the PO Box, sometimes it might act funny, and I don't know if that's an issue that you guys have seen. I think sometimes it wants to
It just
confirm.
doesn't verify the location. It says unverified. It's not able to verify it.
Okay. I think that should be fine, but let me get you a clear answer because yeah, that's
Okay,
not very, that doesn't make a lot of confidence. So I want to make sure to get that answer for you guys.
thank you.
Absolutely. No, thanks for the question. I'm making a note to get a good answer on that. We'll follow up with that as well. Great question. But yeah, we'll get that answer. And then yeah, I really recommend to if anyone's kind of fuzzy on the location codes themselves, this tutorial is great. And the last thing I want to make a point on with this is if you have more than one location, you are also required to file and pay online. So remember we talked about that $500 threshold. Well, there's also this requirement if there is more than one location. So if you have more than one location, you have to file and pay on AZTaxes. There's that. We do have some resources for mobile vendors and contractors as well. I'm not going to spend too much time here, but we have a couple of great landing pages on our website. Now, the first one is it's kind of got a long title, but it's the special events and craft shows and trade shows page. So some great information on there. And then we have a contracting guidelines page. So any of you contractors out there, it's a big web page. There's a lot on there, but I really recommend checking out the FAQs, the frequently asked questions. And there's also some contact information on there as well, I believe. Now, we'll try to talk a little bit more about that if we have any questions. But I want to get on to our tax rate tables. So the tax rate tables are on AZDOR.gov. Now, the tax rate is the total, the tax rate is the percentage at which your entity is taxed. And your total tax rate is going to be the combination of state, county, and city or town rates. Now, these rates may vary based on your business classification. So like retail versus restaurant and all the other classifications, as well as location. So the same rate might be different for different cities and towns. Now, it is, with that being said, really important that you know your business classification that you report and your region code. So, San Luis, you're going to have your region code. You're going to have your region code. And then also be aware that there might be additional rates for some business classifications, or there might be different tiered rates as well for some cities and towns. So I'll kind of show you an example of that next. Your tax rate table 1 will have the state and county tax rates. And there's also the accounting credit rate. That's going to be on the right-hand side of that document. I'll point that out in a second here. And then table 2 will have your city and town rates. So here's table 1. At the top is the county. And then so if we go to Yuma, we'll have Maricopa highlighted, but if we go to Yuma over here, we can cross that over with our business classification. So if we have retail and we go to Yuma, we can find that percentage. To the right, we have our accounting credit rate for paper filers and electronic filers. I'll touch on that towards the end of the presentation here. Keep in mind some of these classifications have a little footnote. They have a little letter, and that's indicating that there's a footnote with additional information. So just check that out carefully. This is if you are manually looking at the tax rate table. I'm going to show you all a tool that's much easier to use that I prefer. The tax rate table is still a good source of information, but I'm going to show you another tool in just a second. Here's tax rate table 2. So this has the cities and towns. Keep in mind that the region codes, you want to check very carefully. Sometimes they're not obvious as to which is what. just look carefully. They don't always make sense. So I always just tell people double check that. And then they have your business classifications and the associated tax rates there as well. Some towns and cities have a tiered tax rate. So Glendale, up in Maricopa County, has a tiered retail sales tax rate here. So check things like that. Just look carefully, especially if you're looking at this manually. But I want to show you this tool. This is on AZTaxes.gov. So if you go to our main AZTaxes.gov homepage, there's a bunch of links on there. One of those links is the tax rate lookup tool. This is super handy because you can put in your address of your business and you can search it, and then you can choose your classification. And once you do that, it will show you your exact tax rate that's applicable for you. So super handy. I recommend doing this if you want to just get some kind of clarity on this. It will be current tax rates though. So if you have to file for a past tax period, you will want to check the archived tax rate tables. And that's going to be on the same place that you find all the tax rate tables. But this tax rate lookup tool is super handy. So check that one out. We also have the model city tax code. So this is going to be useful for information for your like point of sale machines and your software applications and keeping those up to date with the current tax rates. So this provides a lot of information on this page. This is on AZDOR.gov as well. This will provide the city profiles and then the information for preparing for implementation date changes, rate changes, and sunset dates as well. So that webpage is on AZDOR.gov. And I do want to get to this exemption certificate and just kind of give you an overview of this. So I'm not going to get in the weeds and get too in depth with this right now. There are two main exemption certificates that you might be using. There's the Arizona Form 5000, which you see on the screen, and there's the Arizona Form 5000A. So these are both for different kinds of exemptions from transaction privilege tax. The purchaser will fill this out and they complete this, and the purchaser will then present it to the vendor. So let's say if you're for your business, you want to buy, let's say, if you're a salon and you want to buy hairspray and hair products and hair accessories, and you want to buy those tax exempt because you're going to resell them, then you would use Arizona Form 5000A. You would fill that out as the purchaser, and you would present that to the vendor and purchase those tax exempt. Now, you do have to complete those completely as the purchaser. And then the vendor, if you're on the vendor side of that and you're receiving it, you have to keep that in case you are audited. So keep that certificate for your records. So here's a list of a couple things I want to touch on here. There's Form 5000, that's that general TPT exemption certificate. And there's Form 5000A, which is the resale certificate I mentioned. Now, these are both on AZDOR.gov. And then we also have a procedure for exemption certificates. That's got more details about how it works if you have more questions about that. But I want to just kind of make sure we get to the next content here on time too. So if you have any questions, please direct those to us either through SBDC or to us directly, and we can absolutely help you out with these. But I do want to talk about deduction codes with you all too. So if you are filing manually by paper, I'm going to show you where to find the deduction codes. But this is another thing that I really recommend getting on AZTaxes.gov. It's going to make this a lot easier. But what is the deduction code? So this is basically what you use to deduct income that's exempt or excluded from the tax as authorized by the Arizona revised statutes. So remember, transaction privilege tax is a gross receipts tax. You report everything. You report all your gross income. And then you might have deductions available to you that you can then claim using the deduction codes. To claim those, if you're a paper filer, you have to include those on the Schedule A of the TPT form. And each business classification has a specific list of the deductions allowed. You want to make sure that you use the correct deduction code, because if it's incorrect, the deduction will be disallowed, and that will result in a balance on your account. I recommend trying to get on AZTaxes.gov if you can, because it will only show you deduction codes that are allowable for your business classification. So it kind of makes it easier. These deductions are available on our website at AZDOR.gov. I'm going to briefly mention added tax versus tax factoring. So added tax is probably what we're kind of used to day to day. This is where we see on a receipt, we look at a receipt, we see sales tax, or it says TBT, or tax, it says something like that. An added tax is a separate and distinct line item, and that is what will account for the transaction privilege tax that was collected. Now, a person who states an added charge to cover the TPT that's imposed, or that is identified as being imposed, shall not remit less than that amount collected to the department. If you don't use added tax, then maybe you do tax factoring. So this is also a great method. So factoring is when we calculate the tax from our receipts, when the tax amount was not separately identified. Let's say if we're at a concert or a fair or like a sporting event, someone is running around and they're yelling $5 lemonade. And it's easy, right? It's a flat rate. It's easy for the seller and the purchaser. Later on, they're going to go ahead and factor the tax out. They're going to use the tax factoring tables, and they're very easy to use. It's a quick little PDF, and it lists all of the factors, and it shows you how to do that. So this is for those people that do these flat rates that are convenient for them as well as their purchasers. And then just kind of some things to touch on. I want to give you guys some time for questions. Now, if you have more than one license, let's say you have more than one TPT license, keep separate records, okay? Just keep everything separate. Additionally, if you have more than one business classification code under one license, keep the records for that separate as well and report under those specific classification codes on the return. Just keep everything separate, because if you happen to be audited, the business will be taxed at the highest tax rate if the records aren't separate. So keep those records separate. It's going to make it easier for you, and just in case you're ever audited, that'll be better for you as well. Return and payment due dates. So returns are due by the 20th of the month following the reporting period. Now, the returns are considered delinquent if not received by the last business day of such month, and returns must be filed even when no sales have been made. So on AZTaxes.gov, there's a checkbox you would check for no gross receipts. So let's say you had no sales, you would check that box, but you would still do your filing. Keep in mind delivery time, everyone. I know we talked about, I'm going to get the answer on the PO box and all of that. This might be a little more important to think about. If you are filing by paper, keep in mind that it is considered on time when the Department of Revenue receives it. Okay, not by the postmark date, but when we receive it. So just keep that in mind. Now, payments made on AZTaxes online before 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, they're going to be credited on that day. And the settlement date is going to be the date that the money is debited from your bank account and then credited to the Department of Revenue. So online is a little easier on that end. And then there's that accounting credit. Check out your tax rate table 1, look at your business classification, and see if you have the accounting credit. You probably do. Most of the classifications do have this. This is something that you can claim. Electronic filers get an increased accounting credit of 1.2% for up to $12,000 for the year. Paper filers get a little less. They get 1% up to $10,000 for the year. But you're going to want to check that and keep track of it. We won't remind you. You do have to keep track of that. Form 292 is the electronic filing and payment waiver application. If you cannot file and pay online, but you are supposed to be doing so, make sure you fill this waiver application out, send this in, and then we will approve it if it's a valid reason, so you can continue to file and pay by paper. So please, if you need this, go ahead and grab that one and get that filled out. I'm going to kind of skip through the knowledge check. It's not graded, so I think we'll all be happy with that. But I do want to get to questions. So let me get through this. We'll take questions. I know, sorry, we went a little over on the kind of the time we hope to get to the end here. Think about your questions. If you don't mind, if you have a second, we'd really appreciate it if you can do a little quiz here or a little survey. If you can't, that's no problem at all. But it's a QR code. If you scan it, it's like 5 yes or no questions, and then 1 is a comment. But Bill and I and our team really use this, so we'd love it if you have anything to say, good or bad. It's all great feedback, so we love that. Other than that, if we can take some questions, Bill and I will be happy to. And thank you all. We appreciate the time.
Thank you, Matt. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
¿Tienen alguna pregunta? Do you guys have any questions? If anybody has any questions, you guys can raise your hand. This is being recorded, so we have there's all the links. They were sharing all the links of everything they were describing. So you guys, I think it's going to be in the YouTube channel. You can see all the links and everything they provided, so you guys can follow along. ¿Alguna pregunta que tengan? Yes, sir.
So I have a question. I have a cabinet shop, so I manufacture and install cabinets. Would I file tax as under contracting and just pay tax on materials, or am I supposed to do more than that, being I manufacture them as well?
Yeah, I think I heard. Oh, I apologize.
Yeah, he makes kitchen cabinets. And he wanted to know about the contracting tax that he needs to pay since he builds the cabinets.
Absolutely. That's a great question. If you don't mind, sir, if you can, whatever's better with you all at SBDC, but if we can get in contact, because contracting a whole, there's a lot of taxability questions there. So I probably want to get some more details from you and just make sure I get a clear answer for you. But I can do that if whatever works for you all. We have an email. You can email us at any time. It's educationunit at AZDOR.gov. So education unit, education unit, and then at AZDOR.gov. Or Mary and folks, if you guys can forward us any questions like as well. The contracting stuff it can be different depending on the situation. We're actually working on getting a workshop, hopefully soon. There's also a contracting webpage. It's a little bit dense, but there's some good resources on there. But yeah, sure. If I can get your email, if you can give us an email, I'll get you an answer on that. Because that's a good question.
Myra can put it on the chat for him.
That'd be wonderful.
This email. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have another question. Can you just speak a little louder?
Yes. I wasn't able to write down when were the reports due. Is it the 20th of that month or the next month?
Good question. It'll be the 20th of the month following the reporting period. So yeah, if you're doing your taxes for January and you're filing monthly, it'll be the 20th of February that'll be due. Yeah, great question. Great question.
Mary also asked about the PO box situation in San Luis. That would be really beneficial for us to know.
Yeah, once you have the answer on that, I would appreciate it, because I know some of my clients were having a hard time receiving the license. So, and I don't know if it had to do because of that situation of the PO box, but we're working with that with the city because we know that can be an issue sometimes.
Yeah, let me, yeah, Mary, if we can follow up with that, I'd love that, because I think we can get a very clear answer. And if there's any issue, I can get in contact with our licensing and registration team, and they can kind of dig into that and see if there's any issue or not. So we can definitely get that resolved for you all.
Okay,
That's
thank you. I have
critical.
another question, or or maybe you can explain to them the importance that even though, let's say, they didn't sell anything last month, and so there's nothing to report. I know it's important, your form that has the Arizona Department of Revenue filing payment due dates. It says a TPT return must be filed even if no taxes are due. Can you explain that to them, please?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's exactly true. If you have no sales, no gross income, you still have to file your TPT return. So just make sure you still file your TPT return, even if you don't have any gross income to report. And I'm trying to visualize. I think on the paper form it should be at the top as well, but on AZTaxes, on AZTaxes.gov, when you select your filing period in your license, there's a checkbox. There's actually 3 checkboxes. One of those is no gross receipts. I
Put
believe that's what.
zero, right? No gross receipts, zero, but they still have to do it
Yes.
for the 20th of the following month,
Yep, that's correct.
right? Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, great question. I know that's definitely a pain to have to do that when you're like, like I didn't get anything to report. But yeah, you do have to do it, unfortunately.
Okay, I think everybody's answered the survey. Did everybody working on the survey? Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
That's wonderful.
Thank
So
you. Well, we recorded it, so I know we have all those links on the side. So if they want to go over them and review them, they're able to do that as well. Thank you so much.
absolutely. I saw Greg had a question about kind of doing a one-on-one talk as well. And yeah, Greg, we can set up. We can absolutely get you in contact with either ourselves or someone to talk about that the taxability a little more. So if you want to make sure to reach out to us, we can do that. And
Do
that
you
goes for
guys
everyone.
have come to Yuma, or is it mostly via Zoom?
We right now we've done more virtual, but we have done some in person in the past. We just have to get approval for get approval to do it. But we can absolutely look into that in the future. I think that's definitely possible, and we can work to try to set that up with you guys for the future.
Great, thank you. We have one more question.
Is this program offered in Spanish? And also, second question, are there Spanish-speaking reps that we can call to?
Great question. Yeah, that's a great question. And so if I'm being honest on my own opinion, is this should be a priority for us. And unfortunately, we don't have it offered in Spanish yet. I know that this last month, I want to say it was last month or the month before, it became a more serious conversation that we want to pursue that. So I'm really hopeful that we're trying to push for that. So we're hopeful to do that because we really have a need in Arizona for that. So we're hopeful. We just don't have it yet. I'm not quite sure about reps available. I don't know if there's a lot of resources for that, but I think there might be some. Let me get you more information on that as well. But that's something we want to improve. It's a big priority for sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And then Mary, I can get you, if it works, I can send you that PDF resource document as well, which accompanies the presentation, if that works, to get that out to everyone.
Yes, please. I will share it with them.
Absolutely. That's excellent.
Any more questions? Yes, we have one more question.
Absolutely.
Location tax. So as far as contracting, is the tax based on the location of the business or the location of the job?
Great question. That give me one sec. I had a note on that. I hate to say it. Give me just 1 sec here. I think I might be able to get that. Sorry about that. Yeah, contracting is a bit of a whole other animal that we want to get better resources around here. You know, so generally speaking, it should be your home base, is my understanding. But I know there can sometimes be specifics on that. If you don't mind emailing as well, I hate to say that, but yeah, generally it's gonna be the home base that you're worrying about. But if you don't mind giving us an email, that would be great too, just so I can make sure I answer that very well for you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. No, that's a good question. Yeah, I'm
That's
hoping
something
that.
I encourage when we meet with clients is, I love the chat box because it avoids us from waiting and, the long waits on the phone. So they really, as long as we be specific, I really recommend you guys to use the chat box. I love it because it really answers my questions. And it's just, and then you have it on, on writing, or, what they answer for you too. So it's good for them to learn, because this one to me is the hardest license of all to explain and to, and avoid any penalties or anything. Because I do see people feel I didn't sell anything, I don't need to report anything. And then was it 3 months or so, then they get their license gets closed because they didn't file. So it's just education. I feel it's so important. So even if may not pertain to your business, but it is important to know, because it's crucial.
Yeah, well said. I absolutely agree. Yeah, I mean, the more that's Bill and I, we joke that we're not the scary tax people. We want to help you guys, and really everyone here. I mean, honestly, don't be scared of anyone with the Department of Revenue. At the end of the day, we'll do all we can to help you learn and learn how to be compliant rather than actually get in trouble. We really do want to just kind of help educate you on whatever it is. And with that, if anyone ever needs to pursue penalty abatement, we do have our penalty abatement request form. So be sure to look that up. It's on AZTaxes.gov. If you have reasons that you could not file and pay, and you had issues that are legitimate reasons, please pursue that. And it's a case by case basis. So you might be able to get some of that abated potentially as well. And then I saw a question about the email. That email, educationunit@azdor.gov, that'll go. Bill and I will have eyes on that. And our team's pretty small, so there's only like 4 other people on our team. So I want you to rest assured, like, we'll see it. So please, it's a pretty personal email. So give us an email anytime. If you guys have questions later on too, reach out to your people at SBDC and they can get to us, or you can email us as well.
Yeah, and Matt, I just uploaded the Business Tax Basics handout for them, so that's immediately available to them right now. Just to your point, so that we're not delaying them getting that handout, that's available in the chat.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, so if you're in the chat, that's great. Thank you, Bill. That's awesome. Yeah, so feel free to
Thank
download
you.
that. We'll send it out as well.
Take a picture of that, and you guys have their information. You guys can contact them directly. Do not be afraid of them. They're here to help you. Don't wait until it's too late. They'll try to do as much as they can to help you out. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Matt. Thank you for being there for us and explaining. And we'll definitely be reaching back and so they can continue to assist us. We appreciate you staying late, working late today, in order
Oh, it's
to
wonderful.
the community. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We this is the whole reason we do it, so we love it. And thank you all for inviting us. We really appreciate the time. It's been awesome.
Okay, thank you. Thank
Take
you.
care, everyone.
You're welcome. Appreciate your time. Enjoyed the time with you tonight. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Take care.
End the meeting and saves the recording. What we can do, send the people that signed in, email the chat to them so they get access to like the link.
Just messed up.
Wait, stuff